After almost a decade of calisthenics experience, this is how I would go back and restart my training in order to get progress as fast as possible, but also prevent injuries. So for context, my name is Gavin. I'm a professional calisthenics athlete and coach based in Los Angeles, California. And today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the worst lessons that I've had to learn the hard way because when I started calisthenics, I was 17, 18, filled with ego, and just wanted to progress as quickly as possible and try all of the cool things without necessarily starting with the foundation level. So today I'm gonna walk you guys through what I think you should be doing in order to progress into whatever aspect of calisthenics you guys find fulfilling. So the very first thing that I would tell you guys is that you need to be aware of your body. Every body is different. So it's really important that you know, did I injure my ankle from playing soccer 2, 3 years ago? Oh, do I sleep on my side so my right shoulder tends to be tighter? Am I always working behind a desk so my neck is always super, super stiff? Those things might not seem like a big deal at first, but as you progress throughout your journey, those areas aren't necessarily going to get better unless you specifically address them. So, for example, for me, when I first started calisthenics, I was training my human flag, and I actually ended up tearing my rotator cuff because one side was a lot tighter than the other, and that was because I slept on my left side. I didn't realize this was an issue until years after when I worked at a physical therapy clinic and we were doing some thoracic mobility exercises. I realized in that moment, I'm like, oh crap, my left shoulder has way less range than my right, and that has to have been a contributing factor in that injury that I had years ago. And that one was pretty bad, guys. I went to the emergency room and I was on a bunch of painkillers. Not a good look. So it really depends, again, where you're at in your journey. If you are 15 or 16 years old, this is going to look a lot different than somebody who is 30 or 40 years old. It really just depends. Again, you need to know your body and be very, very aware of specific injuries that you have had in the past. So calisthenics is full body. That is great for working out because it makes it really efficient. But at the same time, if you've suffered from acute injuries in the past, because it is full body, that doesn't mean you're taking a break off of those specific areas, for example. So like if you have a tight shoulder, doing a bunch of dips on the dip bars is not going to make your shoulder feel less tight, for example. You might get stronger, but it will get tighter and tighter over time if you don't do something about it. So you want to know exactly where your body is tight, where it's not stable. And this is pretty hard for a lot of people, which is another reason why I find a lot of my clients come to work with me personally, because that is actually my job, figuring out exactly where you're tight, where you're inhibited, so that we're able to prevent those things from becoming an issue in the future. The next step in your journey is focusing on the stability exercises. So these exercises not only are going to make you feel a lot more stable throughout all movements, but it's also going to teach your body how to activate a lot of the muscles that are really important for calisthenics that don't get used very often in many sports or also day-to-day activities. So these exercises in particular are going to be the scapular push-up, scapular dips, scapular pull-ups, hollow body holds, as well as front support on the gymnastics rings. So from there, we're going to move on to the basics of calisthenic strength. So notice how I didn't even start with pull-ups, push-ups, and dips. I want to really make sure you guys understand how important it is to be aware of any injuries that you have had in the past or any weaknesses that'll inhibit your progress. The more awareness you have in your training, the faster progress you are going to make. So for the basics of calisthenics exercises, there are four main components that I typically like to think of: vertical pulling, vertical pushing, horizontal pulling, and horizontal pushing. So vertical pulling, pull-ups. Vertical pushing is going to be dips, pike push-ups, all of those exercises where we're pushing overhead. Horizontal pulling is going to be through rows, and horizontal pushing is going to be through push-ups. And then of course there's core work as well as lower body movements. For lower body movements, I typically would recommend squats and lunges at this phase. That's pretty much all you need, and there are a lot of great lunge and squat variations that you can practice. For example, the Cossack squat or the step down. Those are really great functional movements that are going to build your leg strength. And I know there is a controversial topic out there in the calisthenics space where specific athletes do not train their legs. So I'm going to tell you guys right now, in this phase, I think it's extremely important that you train your legs, because you're not necessarily the top 1%, top 10% of planchers in the world right now, right? You're just starting your journey and you want to build a balanced and solid foundation. If you are still working on getting 10 pull-ups, you should definitely be training your legs. It's only when you become more advanced and specialized in your specific movements that you enjoy, then I would say it's okay to eliminate certain exercises. But for right now, it's all about building a solid foundation. Now, in terms of the upper body, horizontal movements are typically easier than vertical movements. In calisthenics, we're not necessarily using external weight to make the exercises harder, so we have to rely on gravity and leverage. So you want to first start out with push-ups in rows. Once those movements feel pretty smooth and confident that you're able to get at least 15 reps of each, then you can start moving on to parallel bar dips as well as pull-ups. With all of these strength movements, it's super important that you focus on form and mastering the technique early on. If you don't have the right form and then you try to progress into harder exercises, you're gonna find that you're not going to have the proper foundation in order to build upon your progress that you already have made. When I first started training calisthenics, I didn't know anything about form. So for example, I thought a planche is just you hold your body in a horizontal position and you could bend your arms like it was fine. And granted, guys, when I first started, again, almost 10 years ago now, there wasn't too much good information on how to progress in calisthenics at the time. So I was just kind of eyeballing it and winging it. I was training my planche with super bent arms, like here, okay? And then I go to my friend Thomas's house for the first time years and years ago, and I see him planche with the straight arms. And guys, it blew my mind. I thought that was impossible, which is why I was always doing it with bent arms. And it took me years to get to the level that I thought I was actually at, because I realized, I'm like, oh, I've been doing it wrong this whole time. And that's the exact kind of lesson that I want to make sure you guys don't learn the hard way, just like I did. In terms of the specific amount of reps, I would recommend 6 to 10 pull-ups is going to be a pretty solid foundation. If you can push past 10 pull-ups, even better. For push-ups, I would recommend 20 to 30 reps, and dips, 10 to 20 reps. If you're able to meet all of this criteria, it's going to give you a really great foundation in order to progress to whatever style of calisthenics that you want to learn. And if you guys didn't know, yes, there are different styles of calisthenics. Now that it has become a bit more popular, more and more people are branching out into whatever they find enjoyable. I'll break down those specific styles pretty briefly right now. Sets and reps is pretty self-explanatory. You are sticking to the movements that I have just talked about: pull-ups, dips, push-ups, maybe even muscle-ups. And we're working on increasing the amount of reps that we can do. Then there's street lifting. Street lifting is really similar to sets and reps, except street lifting involves adding external weight. So instead of seeing how many pull-ups can I do in one set, they are specifically chasing what's the heaviest amount of weight I can attach to my body while completing one pull-up, for example. Then there's static calisthenics. Static calisthenics focuses on mastering all of the static elements like planche, front lever, handstand, and hefesto in order to make these really cool gravity-defying poses, and you're holding them for long periods of time. We've even gotten to the point now where people are combining different elements into minute or 2-minute long combos, which is really cool to see. After statics, there's freestyle calisthenics. Freestyle is personally what I love and practice as my discipline, because you are not only combining static calisthenics, but you're also combining dynamic elements to those combinations. So for example, 360, double 360s, 540s, alley-oops, shrimp flips, all of those flips and tricks that you see people performing on the bar, those are dynamic elements. And when you combine that with static elements, you're gonna create freestyle. So a lot of competitions like Battle of the Bars and Street Workout Ultimate Battles are freestyle competitions. And then there are some other pretty niche styles as well. I would say you could classify hand balancing as a style of calisthenics since it is body weight training, but it's a completely different style because you're mainly focusing on balance instead of strength. And I would say the last style of calisthenics right now that has been emerging recently is like the hybrid functional version of calisthenics. So this is a person that just utilizes calisthenics in their own training routine, and they're not necessarily trying to compete at calisthenics, but they want the functional strength that calisthenics gives them to create a longevity focused training program. Once you guys master pull-ups, push-ups, and dips, I would recommend trying to learn skills, because skills to me are the most fun and exciting part of your calisthenics journey. These are things like the L-sit, the muscle up, and the handstand. Those are actually the three first skills that I would recommend everyone trying to learn, because not only will that, one, get you stronger, but two, it's going to give you a better idea of what kind of style of calisthenics you prefer. If you follow everything that I've talked about in this video, I truly believe that you're going to find the most optimal and efficient progress in the beginning of your calisthenics journey. So if you guys want me to cover more advanced topics that are definitely important as you get on, for example, advanced mobility for certain skills or other exercises that I think are super important when you get to the intermediate level of calisthenics, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Catch you next time.